Hello, class. So today my name is Joseph Casco, and and today I'm gonna be presenting my critical assignment for Kin 550. So a little bit of background about myself. I worked in behavioral therapy, and so I worked with kids who are struggling with various learning disabilities, such as ADHD, social anxiety, and even kids who are on the autism spectrum. And so basically, our facilities looked like this. It was bottom right corner right here. So as you can see, there's a monkey bar right here. There's a colorful mat down here for core exercises. We had beams for balance. We even had a barber's chair so that we can measure the nystagmus when we spun the kids around, just to see like how long it takes for their eyes to adjust back to equilibrium. But you can already tell this is very playful setting, because when the kids are coming in, we don't want them thinking it's like a rehab center. Although we are doing like rehabilitation exercises and stuff and helping, with their like basic motor functions, we don't want them with that mentality of like, oh, something's wrong with me. We want them coming in thinking, oh, it's playtime. Like this literally looks like a playground. And in the hospital setting, this is chalk, top right corner right here. This is how their rooms look like. This is very different from what a normal hospital would look like. Hospitals can be bleak, and they kind of have a negative connotation to it. Like, again, it's like, oh, I'm coming in because something is wrong with me. But this room already says, like, it's very vibrant, it's very bright, it's very positive, very playful. And that's what we want when you're working with kids. We don't want them thinking, we don't want them to have a really dark mindset. We want them to still enjoy this. This phase in their life is very important. It's very fun. It's very energetic. It's very full of so many possibilities, and these facilities kind of mirror that. And that's where I genuinely want to be working in my career. So for risk management, I chose these three cases right here: Barron v. Cook Children's Health Care System. For this case, it focuses on the idea of being a plaintiff was wrongfully terminated after reporting what they believed to be violation of law. And so with this, the plaintiff was a former employee of this clinic, and she was working underneath two pediatric physicians, and she believed one of them was treating her patients very poorly. And so uh, because of that, she brought it up to upper management. Upper management didn't really like that, and they terminated her for it. And so with that, the reason why I chose this case was because I never want my employees to be scared of telling me if there's something wrong in the workplace or if there's something that they feel uncomfortable with. Because again, communication is very key. And if I'm running a place, I'm only one person. I'm not going to be able to regulate, whatever's going on behind the scenes and everything. I need it to be a team effort. And the only way for that to happen is that employees are communicating with me if there's something wrong or if they believe there's something that's a violation of law. And I don't want them to be scared to tell me. And so, yeah, the next case is Detiz v. Shub. This one deals with the idea of proper assessment. The plaintiff was a patient of a doctor who is the defendant. And basically, he failed to diagnose her congenital hip dislocation. And congenital basically means they're born with it. And because she didn't know this, she suffered the consequences and she had severe injuries later on. And this all could have been avoided if the doctor performed a very thorough assessment. And that's why I brought this case up. I want to make sure that, because I'm going to be working with, PTs and everything, I want them to make sure that they're performing the appropriate, thorough, precise, intricate assessments needed. However long it takes, however small however acute the injury may be, to however serious it may be, it still needs to take the right amount of time to perform the assessment. I don't want my employees cutting corners or anything like that because then this happens. And patients are coming into our facilities hoping to be better, hoping to feel better. We don't want them coming into our facilities and getting more injuries after on. So, yeah, that's why I brought this case up. And then Roe v. Children's Hospital Medical Center. Um, this one, the patients filed a suit against the defendant hospital, the hospital that they are at, because they found out. So for one, there's filing a suit because they believe the hospital was under negligence and conspiracy claims. And they filed it because they believed that one of the employees had a history of sexual assault. And they also assumed that this happened at another hospital in North Carolina. And so basically, the court found that one, the hospital that the plaintiffs were at owed no duty to these patients, and they also found that the sexual assault claims happened after this doctor left his employment in North Carolina. But even though this case went this way, it still presents that idea of sexual assault and how serious it is and how sensitive of a topic it is. And this also just draws back to background checks and how thorough they must be, and how you know you really need to take the time to do as much research about a possible employee as possible. Especially if I'm working with pediatrics, I want to make sure that these parents can trust me when they drop off their kids, and you know just hope, or they put their complete trust in my supervision. And I want to make sure that all my employees are very trusting, and I can you know and I know that their background is very clean and very just good in general. And if there's something that does pop up, I want to make sure that I go over it with the possible employee to see their side of it and see if I can still trust them in the end. Okay, next one, employment laws. I chose these three. First one is Baxley v. Pediatric Services of America. Plaintiff was terminated from her job, believes it was violation of her rights under the Family Medical Leave Act and Employee Retirement Income Security Act. Basically, for a little background about this plaintiff, she was a former employee at this hospital, and she needed to leave because one, she needed a liver transplant, and two, she broke her hand. So she was going to apply for medical leave, and basically the defendant hospital said they believed she was abandoning her position, basically, and so that's why they terminated her from her position, which I think was very wrong. And basically, the court found out as well that the hospital only did that because they didn't have the finances to give her the right compensation for her medical leave. And so they just thought, oh, the easier way out is just to fire her from her job. And this presents that idea that I never want my employees to be hesitant if they need to take some time off to tend to something outside of work, because I get it, life happens and you need to do what you need. You got to do what you got to do. And I just never want my employees to be scared of leaving the job for a certain amount of time if they need to fix something outside of work, because I'd much rather have them go out and take as long as they need and give them the right amount of compensation for that than have them come in to work, either they're ill or they're injured and working at less than 100%, because then that just hurts the facility as a whole. Okay, and then these next two cases both deal with discrimination claims. One of them, Flowers v. Jefferson Hospital Association. This one, the plaintiff applied for staff privileges and was denied, and he saw that as a discrimination claim because he believed that the hospital was treating Black doctors differently from white doctors. And ultimately, this claim was dismissed because he didn't have the right amount of support, and the court couldn't find another applicant encountering the same problems as he was. But this still presents the idea of discrimination and how it still is very apparent in our current society and in the workplace. And for me, at least, I believe it just has a zero tolerance policy anywhere. And we still have so much work to be done in regards to discrimination, and we need to continue making the progressive moves towards just being better, and this case definitely is an advocate for that. And then we also have Tagba v. County of Cook and Herbert Hamako. This one also, again, was a discrimination claim. Plaintiff believed that they weren't receiving the same amount of pay compared to his non-Black coworkers. And he was retaliated against that once he brought up that claim. And then he also overheard that one of his former fellow coworkers said that they would much rather work with East Indians than him. And again, I just don't understand why discrimination is still, happening. It still does happen in the workplace. And whenever I'm going to be, running a facility or anything like that, I want to make sure that my employees feel safe and feel like we are one. It's a team effort. I don't want to make different, you know, little groups and present this toxic work environment. I want to make sure that discrimination does not happen in the workplace at all. Okay, and then last slide, application and faith integration. Things I've learned: one, how many cases of discrimination go dismissed? Because again, those two examples that I gave, both of those claims were dismissed because they didn't have the right amount of support. But the fact that they're still bringing it up to court is, you know, more than enough for me. Like it's that serious. It's still happening in the workplace, and we still need to make so many moves to, just like I said, just be better and make sure that discrimination does not happen in the workplace. I also realized that we still have a lot more ways to go in regards to gender equality, because I think it was week 6 when we talked about Title IX. So many cases presented, unequal pay, budget cuts, unequal opportunities for female student athletes. It really hurts to see that, because it just, again, there shouldn't be such a huge difference. It, we really should be striving for equality for genders, and it still is a thing, and it still does happen in our current society. And last, how mindful I must be about issues in the workplace and the importance of communication. Again, communication is always key wherever I go. And if there isn't any communication, everything else is going to fall apart. So I just want to always make sure that if there's something wrong or something that one of my employees feels uncomfortable with, I want to make sure that they voice it out instead of holding it in, and just keeping it to themselves. And then lastly, biblical references. I chose Hebrews 6:10, which is, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Philippians 2:4, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And lastly, Proverbs 3:27, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. All these three have the same kind of message, where I need to be, I'm gaining all this information from this master's program, and I need to be, instead of keeping it to myself, I need to be able to apply it to life experiences. And especially with the demographic I'm going to be working with, which is kids, they should be enjoying their life. This is a moment of their life where it's so full of positive, playful energy. And I want to make sure that when they come into my clinic, or the pediatric department in the hospital, I want to make sure that they get in and get out as soon as they can, because they need to enjoy this part of their life to its fullest. And I want to make sure that all the information I have gained is applied. So yeah. And then here are my references for each case. And I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. Thank you, Dr. Garrett, for such an amazing course. And I hope everyone is still continuing to stay safe, with COVID and everything. But yeah,